In this home improvement video, I'm going to be redoing my stairs that lead to the basement. The stairs sit in between the main part of the house and the addition that was put in, and they look like they lead to a dungeon. So you go into a nice kitchen, into a nice living room, and look down and probably question if you're going to get murdered. So this is the end result. Looks a lot better. I used solid white oak treads, simple materials, and I think watching me do it will give you guys the confidence to try something like this at your house. So first things first, I'm just scoring this random trim that was on the wall, and so I can remove it. No idea why this was here, but my house was built in 1958, so I'd have to go back a lot of years to figure out what they were thinking here. I'm sure most of you know this, but when you remove trim like this, especially old trim, just bend in those big nails. I actually ended up stepping on one of them and was limping for a couple days here. I'm actually making record profit on this renovation already. I found a dime behind one of the pieces of trim. I wish they left something cooler, like an ounce of gold or something. Now, to make sure my framing is straight, for the sidewall there, I use a laser level just propped up on a stool. I make sure that the gap is half an inch away from the skirt, the stair skirt that's already there, and just marking that line all the way through. So that's a half inch right there to make room for the drywall. I'm going to use half-inch drywall. It took so many iterations and attempts to get that left side right that I didn't show me putting it up. So I make sure all the framing is screwed into each other. It's nice and sturdy, so I'm not going to get any cracks in the drywall or anything. But this is what the framing looks like when it's done. Make sure everything's all level. Close enough. It's about a hair off center, but you will not be able to tell. And just screw it into the pre-existing stair tread. And then just make sure nothing will move. Use a ram set to drive a couple nails in the concrete wall, and the framing's up. Next step is cutting and installing the drywall. I'm not a drywall person. I'm better at woodworking and carpentry, but for my house, yeah, I'm willing to do it myself instead of pay someone to do it. So don't take any of the techniques I use to heart. This is just a sped up clip of me cutting that left side wall. There's a lot of little squares and little profiles I had to cut out of it. It's a bit of a shame I have my project car that's been sitting there for a couple of years. It's getting neglected. He's yelling at me right now like forget about the house and work on me instead, but priorities, man. I'll get to it eventually. I went with metal corner bead for everything, all those corners. I ended up buying the moisture resistant drywall from Home Depot and Lowe's, so that's why some is green and some is blue. Again, I'm not a drywall person, so I'm not sure if you have to cut out the profile for those corners like I'm doing here, but I did it just for good measure, so I'm not overlapping two pieces. This is just a little general rule of thumb. Don't measure if you don't have to. So I just cut that corner out, line it up, and cut it right there. There's no measuring involved. I found these little metal snips to be really useful with this. And here comes my girlfriend's ugly little Italian greyhound. She's pretty much scared of everything, so I cannot believe she even came up to me with all this construction noise going on. And yep, there she goes running away. Again, I'm just cutting this corner here so that I'm not overlapping two corner beads. I don't think this is necessary, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and if I don't have a lot of experience in something, I'm going to do every little thing to make sure the job ends up looking good. And that was Mara again, being curious, but more scared than anything else. She don't like the sound of that drill at all. Once I get mud on the drywall and wait for it to dry, I'm just coming in with my orbital sander. Again, I do not do drywall regularly, so I don't have a drywall sander, but this did the trick fine. I turned the speed down really low because it'll just eat right through that drywall mud. And just check to make sure everything's smooth and send her off. Some things were done out of order on this because, again, don't do drywall, and I got the mud that takes 24 hours to cure, so I would put on a coat and keep working on, the stringers and the risers and stuff like that. So don't be too upset if you see something out of order, and I did my best to keep things concise and easy for you guys to watch. So next is cutting the stringers, which is the trim that's going to go on the side, both sides of the stair. I run it through my table saw. I had a piece almost perfectly the size, and then just because that MDF is so heavy, I did one in place with my circular saw and a straight edge. I used this cardboard template that I made to map out the profile of the stair treads. So I just took a long piece of cardboard, rectangular piece, and then just scribed the side profile of the stairs. And just a quick side note, make sure you're always wearing a mask when you're working with MDF. I've made that mistake way too many times and ended up just struggling to breathe for a couple days, so it's not worth it. Just throw on a mask and save your lungs. If you're planning on living for a long time, at least. And it has a pretty nice fit. Luckily, I'm not going over stair treads. That little gap there is going to be covered by the oak treads that I install. And cutting and installing the rest of the stair skirt trim is pretty easy. You just rip it down all to the same width, and cutting miters, outside miters when you go down a step, and inside miters when you go over. And I'm just using 18 gauge brad nails and construction adhesive to adhere it to the drywall.
It's been so long I didn't see you on mine. You change a lot, you look a different guy. I can't stop thinking about you since last night. Do you feel the same, feel the same, feel the same, feel the same? Imagine if we did it right. Yeah, I feel like we could be so tight. We can fix it's gonna be alright. Do you feel me, baby, baby?
So for this, the order that I installed things was really important. each piece that I installed covered the gap of the previous piece. So the risers are covering the gap from the side of the stair stringer, and then when the treads go in, it's going to cover the gap of everything. And I really should need minimal caulk on this project, which is what I'm looking for.
I would do everything you ask in my love. Yeah, we were kids, baby, the time flew by. I mean, we didn't really had a fight. We were never really said goodbye. I can see your face, see your face, see your face, see your face. We just need some peace of mind. I got a feeling we will be alright. I wanna live with you by your side. Do you feel the same? Look in my eyes, into my heart. I know I'm everything you pray for, my love. Be waiting too long to finding the one. I would do everything you ask me.
And sometimes the best scribe tool is just your pencil. I just kept the profile of the pencil along the bull nose that I wanted to scribe here on the trim, and just cut it out with a jigsaw. As simple as that.
Lately, we can just talk about it. I know we can make it, baby. The word about ended. Maybe now is our time to make it. Our love is stronger than that. Do you believe that too? Look in my
I pulled out my Graco project paint for this project. Because of the fine detail on that trim, I didn't want to paint it and just show all kinds of brush strokes, so this is a very quick and easy way to get a professional looking finish. And Sherwin-Williams Emerald paint I highly recommend. It's very durable and you only need one coat. It covers very well. Especially with MDF, you don't want any of that brown showing through. Now, I know people that do contract work like this are going to call me out because the left side where that support beam is just looking real ugly. But for me, I never planned on finishing this basement. I wanted something that was going to be appealing as you look down the steps. And, you know, I just have a basement for storage and stuff like that, so I don't care what this side of the stairs looks like. And I wasn't going to spend the extra time and money to make it, you know, perfect. And you can see just from using my foam light that I was able to find a couple spots where the paint was thin and the brown from the MDF was going through. Now onto installing the lights on the stairs. I'm going to have 2 LED lights per step. And I made this little cardboard template because all of the risers are roughly the same length. And this is just to keep things consistent and centered and quick.
It's been so long I didn't see you on mine. You're change a lot, you look a different guy. I can't stop thinking about you since last night. Do you feel the same? Feel the same? Feel the same? Feel the same? Imagine if we did it right. Yeah, I feel like we could be so right. We can fix it, gonna be alright. Do you feel me, babe? Feel me, babe? Feel me, babe? Look in my eyes, into my heart. I know I'm everything you pray for, my love.
I love the way these lights look. I'll include a link in the description to link to this product. Just got it on Amazon and cost me a little over $80 for all 14 steps, I believe. So definitely recommend. And just to start, I'm cutting the treads to rough size. I cut them about an inch oversized just to make them easier to handle at first on the miter saw. Now I don't have a joiner yet, so on the wider pieces I use my track saw to cut a nice clean edge, because this is rough cut lumber. That worked really well. And then on the smaller pieces I used a sled on the table saw. These edges are going to have to be perfectly straight for the glue ups.
We've been in a lot lately, we can just talk about it. I know we can make it, baby, the word about ended. Maybe now is our time to make it. Our love is stronger than that. Do you believe that too? Look in my eyes, into my heart. I know I'm everything you pray for, my love. Been waiting too long to find in the one. I will do everything you ask me, my love.
Now it's important to think ahead. So for this triangle step here, it's going to be too wide for my planer, so I really am trying to clean up the glue as much as possible, because I can't rely on the planer to take that glue off. I'm going to have to sand it all off straight, and you don't want it to stain the oak. Now to save time and to be more accurate, I use this stair tread template. I'll include the link to that as well. I ended up cutting the sides of it off a little bit short, so it gave me a more accurate measurement. That's why it looks so funky, but you don't really need to do that. I just did that so I didn't, catch the wrong profile and end up getting a bad profile that I mark on the tread. But this was very helpful, made things a lot quicker, a lot more accurate. And I really need no caulk where the skirt meets the tread here.
It's been so long I didn't see you on mine. You changed a lot, you look a different guy. I can't stop thinking about you since last night. Do you feel the same, feel the same, feel the same?
Now, since these stair treads are a little bit over 1.25 inches thick, I went with a 5/8 inch round over bit. I didn't want to invest in a bullnose bit because I know I won't be doing this too often. So this worked really well. I just put a round over on both sides and sanded it smooth.
Yeah, we were kids, baby, the time flew by. I mean, we didn't really had a fight. We were never really said goodbye. I can see your face, your face, your face, your face. We just need some peace of mind. I got a feeling we will be alright. I wanna live with you by your side. Do you feel the same? Look in my eyes, into my heart. I know I'm everything you've ever been waiting too long to find in the one. I would do everything you ask of. Look in my eyes, I know we need time. I know I'm everything you've ever my love. I've been waiting too long to find in the one. I would do everything you ask of.
I ended up using Odie's oil for the finish on these treads. I wouldn't say this is the best finish for stair treads. It's kind of a lower traffic area. I don't really go down the steps too often. But I had this laying around and it's strong enough to handle foot traffic. So the only thing I didn't like about it is if you're looking for a natural finish, you can see here the white oak looked like white oak before, and after staining it or after applying the finish, it almost looked like a little bit of a red oak, which is not what I was going for. But if I could go back, I would go with a water-based polyurethane probably. But you live and you learn, and it still looked really good. All that's left here is installing the steps. I just used construction adhesive. Looking back, I would definitely just use more adhesive. I used enough, and the steps don't move or anything, but they're a little creaky, and I feel like with some more adhesive I could have fixed that. I'm not sure if people use like silicone as well or anything to prevent it from squeaking, but if I really was worried about the squeaking, I would have removed the old steps. I know that creaking is mostly coming from the steps that are underneath these treads. So if you guys know any tricks for that, any better solutions than just throwing construction adhesive on there, let me know in the comments. I'm always looking to learn new tricks and stuff like that. My video editing skills aren't up to par yet, but I would have blurred out my nasty feet. I got some adhesive on my socks, but I can see the finish line and just ripped the socks off and got her done barefoot. And that is the finished product. Very happy with how it turned out. I get a lot of compliments when I have people over. The lights look great, and didn't cause me too many headaches. Actually went pretty well. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you like the videos that I make, subscribe to see more. I got some really cool projects coming up, and I'll leave a link to all the products I used, all the tools and stuff like that in the video description below. See you guys next time.